I'm going to talk about the mask and its occult symbolic significance in the world today with the pandemic which is going on. The mask has a very long history with shamanism. When people used the mask for ritual, the mask, when you put it on, because it has a symbolism of an animal, it's an abstraction of an animal like a lion or a tiger, you can then attract or connect with an archetypal world of that animal to invoke that energy, which is sometimes called a spirit. Now, this is a ceremony, it's a shamanic ceremony. And if you can, it's basically sympathetic magic, because sympathetic magic is when, if you've got a doll and you do something to the doll has the form of a person, and then that you allocate that doll to a person, so you connect it, and you do it by giving them the same skin color or hair, and then you do it by giving them the same name or perhaps the same clothes. So there's some connection, there's some link, there's a representation. And then what you do to this doll, which is voodoo, then happens to that person. So it's a sort of a sympathetic magic. If you have a mask of a lion and you want to connect to lion through the mask, through the visual aids, you can therefore do it, and that's the ritual. So we're putting on masks, aren't we? And you might say, yeah, well, you know, the surgeons wear masks. Yeah, the surgeons do wear masks. And the surgeons, when you think of a surgeon, you think of someone who's adept, someone that's educated, someone that can help you, someone that can do many things. But when you see someone who isn't a surgeon wearing a surgeon mask, and the masks are starting to change, they're starting to leave the surgeon mask type visual into a different type of mask, but most people have surgeon masks. The surgeon mask wearer is starting to become someone dirty. So you're seeing an inversion starting to happen. The mask is no longer celebrating someone of knowledge. The mask is now standing or symbolizing somebody that's ill, and you have to have a social distance from that person, and you can't touch them. Therefore, the mask has converted from something which is beneficial and benevolent to society into something which is dirty and dangerous, and it transforms the person. So when you wear the mask, people are now scared of you, people now fear you, you now become someone that could transmit disease. And that's how an inversion of a transformation has happened through symbolism of the mask. A lot of people are saying that the mask is initiating you into a new global order and your place within it. What they're saying, that wearing the mask is a ritual event. We are in some huge ceremony. The lords and ladies of the ceremony, the shamans, the high priests, and now the politicians, they're the surgeons, they're the doctors, they're Fauci, they're all of these people. Because the shaman originally, he was the leader of the society, and he stood for many things. He understood the laws, he understood the religion, he understood the military or going attacking, he understood the farming, because he was linked to spirit, and spirit would talk to him, and then he would talk to the people, or people would join him in the community, but he would lead. But overall, he probably had the last piece of advice, or the last say. What's happened is, over the years, as we've got more and more complex, the shaman, who was perhaps the united understanding of everything, has now fractioned. So you get the biologist, the physicist, and the chemist instead of the scientist. You probably originally had a scientist who had a limited understanding of everything, and then he gets fractioned off. And then within biology, you get biochemistry or biophysics, and then they fraction, and then they fraction. So you can become a doctor of something which is perhaps obscure to somebody, because it's become so focused on minute detail. The further you go in, the universe keeps opening up, which is one of the magic parts of living in this world, that, you know, the small things seem to have other universes. The world that we are entering into is called the fourth industrial revolution. We've had the first industrial revolution, which was steam, and then we went into the electricity, we went into motors, we went into computers, but now we're going into the smart revolution. This smart revolution, it's exponential in its capacity to innovate, The whole world is changing. It's changing business, food, medicine, education. And the problem that we have in the world at the moment are legacy systems. Legacy systems are things that we don't need but we keep using. For instance, pilots and airplanes, we don't need them. We can do it with machines. We can do it with AI. For instance, money, we don't need money. We can just use cashless money through credit cards and digital currency. So teachers are another one which are going, what's the point teaching if a child in their hand has a smartphone with more capacity, understanding and knowledge than you have? If you ask the child a question, the child can just look it up on the telephone and give you the answer. So teachers in the future will change from teachers into guides, and they'll change into software engineers, which basically give hyper specialist classes to children, and AI will take over the education. So those are legacy systems. And the society is based on legacy systems. In order to move into the fourth industrial revolution, you need to get rid of the legacy systems, which means changing the society. But people in the society don't want to change because of nostalgia and because of routine in the way they're doing something. So it's very strange that at this moment in time we've got COVID, and COVID acts as a perfect excuse to change all of these legacy systems. Money's going, education's changing, banking's changing, and we're having the layout of 5G while all of this happens. And 5G is what's going to make everything smart. It's going to make all the Uber as a company for a taxi that people can do as an extra job will be converted into a driverless car. So all of these companies are being set up to help bring in the new fourth industrial revolution, which some might call the Armageddon, some might call the New World Order. But the ritual of bringing something in through the mask is being put out. Now, if technology is part of human destiny, then we are supposed to go through this time. We went through living in the jungle or the wilderness. We went into farming. We went into cities. We went into complex societies, philosophy, art, history, schools, societies, mega cities, countries, into businesses that are more powerful and rich than countries. So the human, he's changed. He's on this transition of changing. And you get a lot of fear from Christians that this is the new world order and it's by Satan and everything's bad. Now, I think that if technology isn't handled properly and it's abused by negative energies, which negative energies may well want to do, and I think that they are, and that is to control humans by dominating them, by exerting power over them, then that is something that we need to stop. But on the other hand, just because technology can do this doesn't mean that it's something that should be stopped. You shouldn't turn into a Luddite. That in the past, many technologies like gunpowder have managed to destroy other nations. The whole of Latin America was destroyed by the Catholic Church and the conquistadors because of gunpowder, or boats or greater technology. So we can't hate technology for the sake of hating technology. What we need to do is we need to try to be more conscious of what we're doing, and I believe that consciousness comes from nature. And it's strange that technology tries to destroy nature. As we progress, the technology nuclear centers in Japan, Fukushima, destroyed nature. The drilling for oil destroys nature. The building of all of these bridges and towns destroys nature. The growth of humans and their want for food, especially meat, involves destroying the Amazon rainforest so that cows can graze, so that we can kill them and eat them. So technology, in a strange way, having multiplied the people on the planet and then creating people to become addictive to consumerism, and that consumerism needs resources, and that resources destroys the planet. You can see how technology is sort of destroying the place that we live. And that's partly because of our own incapacity to be able to distinguish between a correct type of living and an incorrect type of living, which some may say boils down to spirituality, in that, you know, you have to be a Christian, a Muslim, or a Hindu, or a Buddhist. But at the end of the day, all of the religions have become corrupted, and the textbooks that they believe in can be misinterpreted, and one Christian will contradict another Christian, and both will say they're correct. So it's very difficult. It's like a nightmare, isn't it, really, to try to understand exactly what's going on. But this idea of COVID coming out and changing everything, and us having to acknowledge this change by putting on a mask, and that mask covering your face so that you can see what's happening, but you're not allowed to say anything. It's sort of acting like a gag, a kidnapping of humanity, because when humans get kidnapped, they automatically get gagged. They get that tape around their face, which stops them talking. And so the mask is there to stop you talking, for you not to speak out. And when you speak out, it's muffled. You can't hear what's being said properly. So this the people that are bringing in this new technological revolution are people like Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and her sister Isabel Maxwell. If you look at writing by Whitney Webb, it's very interesting that the people bringing in this new technology are very involved in child sexual abuse. And child sexual abuse, paedophilia, and elitism and Satanism or negative energy have always been linked. So if the people that are trying to drive in this new technology and implement on us a particular way of living to accept the technology, instead of us naturally becoming accustomed to it and developing what we need, it's therefore sort of like a control or a power over us. And we can see what's going on. People are starting to wake up, but it's very difficult to talk. It's very difficult to know what to say. It's very difficult to know what the answer is. And when people do talk, like for instance on YouTube or Twitter, they're gagged as well. So there is this sort of link between being gagged, us, and people, alternative media, also being gagged and having to watch your words and being muffled and making sure that you're more clear with what you said. So there's lots of links that are happening and that are supporting one another to suggest that we are in some rather large ceremony, and that the mask is a symbol of that ceremony. So religion, rituals, ceremonies, Satanism, good, temples, gods are all sort of connected together. The COVID crisis has turned our lives into a ritual. You must wash your hands. That's a very old ritual going back into Judaic, Babylonian times. You have to take your shoes off before you go into the house. But this time you have to wash yourself before you go into the house. You have to spray yourself with alcohol. So that becomes a ritual. Also, going out of the house, you have to put a mask on. That becomes a ritual. And I've already talked a little bit about what the mask means. It can be like a gagging. You can't say anything. It's like being subordinate. So you have to accept, something else. You become a serf in the system, a slave. So the ritual has always been linked to religion. Ritual is basically when you do something again and again and again, and it sort of affirms your beliefs. You have to understand that if you have a belief and you can link it to your physicality, as in you're doing it. So you do a ritual which involves you going through a physical motion. You are in effect like saying a prayer, because if prayer links you to something, then also doing something physical can also link you to something. So for instance, yoga. If you do yoga, certain positions have certain links or symbolic gestures that create relationships and links to energies and archetypes, perhaps in your system. Even dancing, you can do the dance of the sun or the moon, and you can go through a particular set of motions that contain a story. A prayer can be a repetitive action. It can be a story as well. But what you're doing is you're programming your mind, you're changing your neurons, and you're also creating a link, a subconscious link or a conscious link to an energy or entity. And that link creates attraction, and it creates strength. And so you start to go towards it. So the ceremony of ritual that everybody is participating in, it's a ritual of welcoming in the new fourth industrial revolution, this smart technological revolution. It's about us not having any say in what this technology is going to bring us, and having to listen to the people bring it in for us and tell us that we need it. For instance, 5G. Everybody's at home on the internet. Everyone's going crazy because the internet doesn't work and everyone needs to do their job and earn money. So when 5G, which has been set up while C virus has been going on, at the end of the day, everyone's going to say, yeah, we want this 5G. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad for us. I just need to do my job. So what's happening is that through this ritual of doing things, putting the mask on, washing your hands, cleaning your body, in the name of being scared of coronavirus. Because remember, rituals should be done with love. Religion should be done with love. Spirituality should be done with love. The ritual of coronavirus is not done with love. It's done with fear. It's done with fear of getting killed, getting ill, the fear of losing your job, the fear now of being penalized because you don't comply with the mandatory rules that the government is setting up. And remember, religions in the past were implemented by the government. Christianity was eventually implemented in the 3rd or 4th century by the Emperor of Rome. And that is for the people. Everyone must believe in this system. And the new system, it's not a religion on the surface, but underneath it is a religion. Because in most religions, you've got invisible entities which come and destroy your life, called demons or devils. But the coronavirus is an invisible energy. It's a virus, and that comes and destroys and kills your life. So because we understand it's a virus with our science, we can say, oh, it's a virus. But in the past, they wouldn't have known that, and they would have said, right, it's got something to do with the devil, and it's God has waved his angry stick, and now he's killing and making everyone ill. So you wanting to indulge in the ceremony for protection against this fear, it's a religion, it's a ritual, it's an ideology, it's got protections. Your protection is the mask, all right, or the alcohol, or the hand washing, and it's a protection against an invisible thing that can kill you, which is like a devil. So you can see the relationships between our modern scientific understanding and prevention, and also the old religious understandings and preventions, and both are ritualized and both are religions. One that's told to be a religion, which is the one in the past, and one which is hidden, which is the religion now, which is the C virus. Rituals are also very important because rituals create people to mold together. More people that do the same ritual come together stronger and stronger, and they form a unity. At the moment, we have the non-face mask wearers and the face mask wearers. The non-face mask wearers want to have unity with people not wearing face masks. The face mask wearers, the people that believe in what's going on, will find unity together. So you're seeing sometimes non-face mask wearers you're seeing sometimes face mask wearers mace non-face mask wearers in the park, or shout at people that aren't wearing face masks, because their ideology, their new religion, their symbolism of the mask, their ritual that they go through, they're starting to identify themselves as part of this thought belief system which believes in the coronavirus, and the other people that have an ulterior ideology which is opposed to it. And you can start to see both clashing at the moment. But ritual's very important because most people believe in coronavirus, so putting on the mask is actually pulling everyone together to reaffirm the same ideas and beliefs. You've got to understand that if people have different ideas and beliefs, you don't know it until you speak to them. But if you're made to wear something, for instance, like the Jews in the Second World War, or a cross, or a Muslim logo, or a Jewish logo, not a logo, I'm sorry, a symbol, the Star of David, You're telling people that you belong to this ideology. I'm a Jew, I believe this ideology. I'm a Christian, I believe this ideology. And wearing the mask, you're saying, I'm someone that believes in the idea that the coronavirus is around and very, very dangerous. And we should all wear these masks for safety and keep social distancing and have these rules. Because remember, with religions, you've got rules. And with the coronavirus, you also have rules. Which means that coronavirus is quite like a religion. It's ritualistic. So the introduction of these symbols reaffirms to yourself and other people and solidifies those ideologies, making that ideology stronger. Usually when you have a ritual, you need something to sacrifice. Well, we've already got a lot of sacrifice which is going on at the moment. A lot of people have lost their jobs. There's a lot of terrible depression. There's depressions which are coming, monetary losses which are happening to people. They're going into debt. So we can see these terrible pains and sufferings which are happening with this COVID or the sea ritual. But, the Christians always like to say, yeah, but, for it to be satanic, we need to get the animals out. A lot of animals are dying at the moment, actually. People, there's a lot of chickens and they come to their cycle and they need to be killed, and there's people which are not buying them. There's a lot of milk which is being thrown away. Cattle are being depopulated, and slaughters being done in the name of COVID. So if you want to think that COVID is a religion, then you do have your sacrifice within the religion as well. Within religions, you've got the rituals. So in the Abrahamic and most, I think, other ones, Hindu and Buddhist, you've got the washing of the hands. In the COVID ritual, you need to wash your hands. But you do it not in water, you do it in sanitizer, you do it in alcohol. Now, alcohol and water are two completely different things. Water allows things to grow. It allows life to happen. Alcohol kills things. So you're washing your hands with a killing agent, not with an agent like water, which creates life. So you can see the inversion which is going on there. You can also see the initiation of baptism. So when you baptize somebody, you wash them with water. Now we wash the entire body with alcohol. The other thing about washing as well is that you clean, you get rid of stuff. It flows away from you. I wash my hands of this person, it flows away. When you wash with sanitizer, the bugs or the virus still stay on your hands. You're not washing, you're keeping on your hands, but killing. So in other words, if you want to really push the boat out, you're carrying death on your hands, but death in sort of germ way, not in animal way and stuff like that. In religion, you always have prophets, and these prophets sit back and they say there's going to be disease here and disease there, and if you don't do what we say, God's going to get angry and there's going to be more plagues and more diseases. You just need to look at Moses if you're in the Abrahamic religion to understand what was happening there. The prophets of today are to do with computer systems, and they prophesize. It's called neuromancy, I think. And what you do is you prophesize what's going to happen in the future based on algorithms. So the COVID simulation is actually a prophecy of what's going to happen. And those are the new prophets. The new prophets are computers. We trust computers more than we trust prophets. In the past, they trusted prophets and magic. Today, we trust computer systems and science, because that's the evolution. It's gone from magic to science. With every religion, you need to have a story. Where does it come from? What happened? Or there's mystery, isn't there, involved? And there's always something a little bit magical. So, for instance, the Garden of Eden, Adam was the first golem. God got some mud and some earth and he put it together and he made Adam, and then he took the rib from Adam and created Eve. But a golem is something that you make from mud. So if God makes a golem, it's us. But if we make a golem, it's more like Frankenstein. Humans, where were humans made? Were they made in some sort of laboratory that the Bible doesn't know how to explain? And were these people, these gods, Because remember, the Bible doesn't talk about singular, it talks about plural. It doesn't say God, it says gods. So who are these gods? Are they like alien, UFO type people, laboratory assistants, or what's going on? So there's all of that within the cosmology, the alternative cosmology of the Bible. But where did COVID come from? COVID's just as elusive as man. Nobody really knows where COVID has come from. Some say a laboratory, some say it's bats, some say it's a food market, some say it's a jungle, some say it's manipulated. So if the COVID came from a laboratory, and humans obviously had to have come from some sort of laboratory if we were created in a different dimension, COVID has taken on its own myth, and COVID has taken on its own history, laboratory, its creation. It's been created by something. It's taken something of God. So for instance, if a scientist made it, the scientist has inverted part of God's will, because it's humans playing with something that they shouldn't have. We're opening Pandora's box, where we've got hubris. We're flying too close to the sun and we're going to fall. And when we play God, these terrible things happen. And the result of us playing God, when we've built the Tower of Babel, when we understand all the language, or we speak one language, which might be mathematics, God's got to come along and knock it all down and send us back to the prehistoric age, and then we start again in this large cycle. And so the story of COVID is people interfering in God's work. And we are in a dichotomy, because on one hand we want technology to advance, and when it suits us, and after some generations, we agree with the enhancement of the humans, and the interfering of some things to a point, but we don't like it when we don't understand what's going on. So for instance, if a child's going to have terrible illness, we would be quite happy to interfere. Well, a lot of people would be quite happy to interfere genetically. Whereas if we're going to make superhumans, then people wouldn't be happy. But if China was to make superhuman, and they were going to come and attack the West, and we had no way of defending ourselves except for modifying our own people, then perhaps modifying our people would be justified in order to maintain our ideology and culture. So every religion needs to have a sort of a myth and a story behind it. And COVID has its own special ideologies. Where did it come from? Was it created? Was it natural? If it was natural and humans interfered in it, that's the devil, isn't it? You see, because humans are bad, aren't we? So when humans interfere in something, it's the devil interfering in it. And then when the devil interferes in God's work, God punishes us by sending us plagues and COVID. So it's very symbolic, and it can have a very Christian perspective placed on the COVID story. The other thing about ritual that I've forgotten is that a lot of sports people do rituals. They get up at 5:15 in the morning, and then they start their day with 15 press-ups, and then they have to touch the door 15 times, and then they go to work at a certain time. So they sort of attach numerology to the ritual of life, and they're absolutely sure, that this gives them more focus, and it creates a connection to winning. And they go through this every single time they pick up a baseball bat or rugby ball or something like that. And so when we put the mask on, we create the ritual. We're in this huge ritual called coronavirus. We're told by our prophets that the scientists and the computer systems, what's going to happen. We work with fear that if we don't wear a mask, then we're going to get killed. We need to have a special protection and vaccine and alcohol. We need to wash our hands and do all these ritualistic things. But rituals also have numbers, as I was saying, attached to them. And they also have special times attached to them. When we go out to work every day at the same time. And we come back from work and we go to school to pick up our children at the same time. So within the ritual, we've also got numbers and times. Now, they don't have to be exact. You don't have to do things exact at that time. There are many rituals which you have to do in the morning, and that you have to do at midday, and that you have to do at night. So it doesn't have to be a particular time, but it can be an area of time. And when we have the ritual of the face mask and putting it on, we have the ritual of putting it on in the morning when most people go out to work, and then the ritual of taking it off when we go back home. The ritual's also starting to move into the house. So before, it was always before you left the house, you put the mask on, and when you came to the house, you took it off, and then you washed and you cleaned yourself as you went in, as you'd go into a temple. So in effect, the house is starting to become a temple, and in a way, you know, your house is your temple. It's a representation, a metaphor, a mirror image of yourself. And so when you go into your house, you're disconnecting from the world, and you've externalized your world. What's inside you, outside, your pictures, your colors, your furniture, your books, your certificates. It's like your head being flattened out from 5 dimensions onto 4 dimensions. So you go to the house and you go through the ritual, and it's done at a certain time. It's done at a certain time. You go into the temple and out of the temple at certain times. So again, it's very much ritualistic, and it's very much like a religion, this C virus that now exists. And for what? To welcome in the new world which has been welcomed in from the 5G technology, a new world which is getting rid of all the legacy systems, a new world which is resetting everything, a new world which is putting in technological revolutions and evolutions into our life, a world where we need to buy electronics and technology in order to survive, in order to get the cashless society that they want. Everyone's going to have a non-contactless cash, and old people that aren't used to this type of stuff, they're going to have to change. They're the people that are going to be worst affected. But the younger generations, they'll be able to do this much better. But the mid-50s, 60s, they're going to have to change. They're going to force themselves to learn these new skills, these new ideas, this new way of life. Because the new normal is a new way of life. It's changing who you are, changing the way you do things. And changing the way you do things changes the way you think. So you've got the neurons as well, which are also going to have a different perspective of reality after this change takes place. Many people are saying that this change will take place in 2025. You've got some people, Ray Kurzweil, which is saying 2030 they'll have this brand new way of life. A lot of people are saying 2025, that they're trying to pull the dates forward. I don't think that technology is actually something that we need to be scared of. I think we've got to be scared of the people that are implementing the technology on us, and the things that they're doing to create us accepting that new technology. And I think I've been listening to a lot of people, and a lot of people are starting to say, oh, I've been asked, how do I deal with this? What do I do? How do I change the world? How do I tell people, you know, what's the answer? What do I do? I think the best answer is to change yourself through education and through study and through behavior. I think that education changes your perception, and perception changes your behavior. And I think that the best way to understand what's going on is through intelligence. Everyone talks about consciousness. You got to elevate your consciousness. You've got to go to the 5th and the 6th dimensions, and you've got to make a connection to the Imperial White Brotherhood that are out there on spaceships just outside of Saturn, but we can't see them because they've got special cloaking devices. I hear a lot of that stuff. I think that it's more simple. I think that the other thing that I keep hearing is having faith in God. You must have faith in God. You have to pray. You have to have faith in God. I don't see what having faith in God and praying is going to do. I think that you need to be proactive. I think pray and ask God for help, but I also think that you need to research and understand what's happening, so that when people, the schools and people in power, positions of power, they try to implement this, you can speak back, you can thwart them, you can disrupt them with the knowledge that you have, because knowledge is power. And I think that can be done on the alternative media and books and listening to YouTube channels. If you like the video, please subscribe.